Hey everyone, and thank you for joining our session today. We are from JumpRope. So my name is Justin Meyer. I'm the CEO and co-founder of JumpRope, and with me I have Becky Brown, who is our standards-based practice specialist and senior researcher. And so today we're just going to give you kind of a quick overview of JumpRope and some of the new functionality that we have. And so I think just a little bit of background on JumpRope. We were founded in 2009 by myself and my best friend, who is a New York City math teacher. And so we have deep roots in New York City, and our software is really well situated for New York City schools. And we work with probably somewhere around more than 50 New York City schools. But today we're going to talk to you a little bit about sort of the most recent research and that kind of drives our work, and how that and then kind of show you how we can help you achieve that. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Becky to kind of kickstart this, and then she's going to hand it back to me to give you a quick demo of the software, and then hopefully we'll have some time at the end for questions as well. And then of course Becky and I will both be available after this session for time if you want to schedule some of that. So, all right, with that I will hand it over to Becky, and she'll get us started.
Great. Thank you, Justin. And good morning to everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. As Justin said, I'd like to just spend a few minutes, since we don't have a lot of time together this morning, to share with you some of the brain science that supports teaching practices at the heart of our software and our tools. I'm going to share my screen. Bear with me, everyone. And so hopefully you can see my screen. And, we all know that neuroscience and brain research has come a long way in the last few decades and has had a really significant impact on the fields of cognition and learning. And in particular, they've been able to do imaging studies and really been able to show the brain's response to certain instructional practices. These two quotes from what I consider a really terrific book on brain science and learning by Judy Willis and Jay McTighe really highlight the areas we value and spend time doing our work and to support teacher practice. The first one really speaks to our belief and support of clarity of expectations and goals. And the second quote there really speaks to the importance of communicating progress toward goals with students. Let's see. So I'm not a neuroscientist. Forgive me as I just paraphrase the great work of Willis and McTighe here. But basically, the brain has, two primary survival mechanisms. Our brain really is programmed to receive sensory input, and an area of the brain called the reticular activating system screens that input and kind of decides if the person is going to act on it or go into flight or fight mode and kind of be more survival in its reaction. So basically what happens is when presented with unexpected sensory input, like in the classroom, for example, unfamiliar question or a task, the brain rapidly scans stored memories to find something that matches that new information. And if the brain doesn't recognize a pattern or something familiar, or maybe senses failure, the reaction is to shut down or flee, and that's that survival mechanism. If the brain does detect a pattern or something familiar, it makes a prediction about the likelihood of success and decides how it wants to act. And when the brain makes an accurate prediction and acts in a way that meets success, there's a release of dopamine, promoting that sense of pleasure and satisfaction. And the brain finds this so pleasurable that it remembers the actions and seeks opportunities to repeat them. So that's a motivator, obviously, for students. So when a student knows what it looks like to succeed, like with clear targets or a clear mastery rubric with levels of success described, then it's more likely to make an accurate prediction and act in a way that gets the desired result and an additional sense of success from the dopamine release. And then when a student receives feedback from teachers that's actionable and timely and specific, they're more likely to succeed, which again makes their brain release dopamine and motivates students to continue working hard. So ultimately in this process, the brain is creating new stored memories and ideas of what it looks like to succeed. And this means that in the future, when presented with an unfamiliar question or a challenging assignment, the brain isn't as scared and is more likely to engage. And over time, this results in just a repeated pattern of learning and success with more confidence and motivation. So standards-based teaching, assessing, and reporting practices innately support students' brain, how they're hardwired to support the best learning conditions. So I just want to share this Venn diagram with you. JumpRope really endeavors to connect the strong teaching practices that are supported by the research and to make it easier for teachers to implement these practices in the classroom. In this diagram, you'll see that really what we're showing here is that there is a big world of standards represented to the far right. And that's a lot of things. It's state and national documents, it's school accountability, all of those things. You'll see in the middle where JumpRope is a piece of that world, and we're really about the piece of the standards world that's about being really clear about what students should learn and really distilling and creating clear learning goals, like we just heard about in the brain research. And then you'll see just to the left of the JumpRope in the middle, you'll see these four larger areas of clarity, equity of opportunity to learn, learner agency, and continuous improvement cycle. Those are really our beliefs and our core values. And from that, we've been able to find the teaching practices that align to those beliefs, many of which really are supported by the brain research, particularly, as I already said, articulating clear goals, communicating progress, helping students learn to self-assess, setting goals, giving students formative opportunities to learn before judging their final learning. Those are all things that we know from the brain science really promote a more positive learning situation for students. So not to rush that too much, I am going to now toss this back to Justin, so he can show you a little bit more by showing you our software. Justin. Justin, I think you're muted.
Thank you. What I'm going to do is just walk you through a quick demonstration of our software. Obviously, you know, in 15 minutes, we can't quite cover everything. And what our focus is going to be on is some new functionality that we've released over the summer, really specifically for New York City and kind of inspired by our work there. And let's see here, what I'm going to do is start with and what I'd like to do is usually just start with a progress report, just to kind of frame sort of what this work might look like. And like I said, the example that I'm working from today is we've had for the last 10 plus years a really robust standards-based gradebook, working towards supporting those teaching practices that Becky outlined earlier. kind of as a guide. And I wouldn't say that we're, perfectly implementing all of those practices, but that's really our roadmap, and our goal is to support those as best we can, and we're in progress towards doing that. And so I like to start with a progress report whenever I do a demo of JumpRope. It just really kind of frames, what does this look like for students, and then from there we can kind of go into the software and show what it looks like to use it as a teacher. And so this example report here is from our hybrid implementation, and hybrid is brand new for us, like I said, and what it allows for is for a more traditional model of grading, while still being able to either use standards to whatever extent the teacher's comfortable. And what we found over the years of implementing standards-based grading is that it can be a very difficult transition for a whole building to make. And so this allows teachers who are ready to do standards to start giving that feedback to students in a more detailed manner. And for teachers who aren't quite as comfortable with that, to still continue giving assignment grades rather than just scores based on the standards. And so here we can see a summary of the report at the top with our classes. This is a high school example. We have algebra, American history, and English, and then the course grades for those classes. And then down below here, we have a section with the learning standards. And so our algebra class here really doesn't have any learning standards. This teacher is just starting to experiment, and what they've done is they've added a work habit standard. So at least, one of our practices is separating out academics from behaviors. And so here we can give the student a clear score on the assignment, but then also say, hey, here's how you're doing with your habits, and separate those scores out. And then we have other classes down here. One that is still giving traditional scores. This English class, you can't really tell. And then the American history class here, which is not giving any scores except for the feedback on standards. And so what this looks like in the software is we have here our gradebook, and JumpRope has, in addition to the gradebook, a number of other features. We have attendance, we have comments, all of the schedule information, and everything can be imported in from stars, so you don't have to maintain class lists or rosters or anything like that. And when you log in here, you'll have your gradebook, you'll have your classes, and you'll get to choose, what method of grading you want to do, whether it's a hybrid approach where you're still giving assignment scores and giving and you have the option of giving feedback on standards, or whether you're just going to just do straight standards-based grading. And so this example here is our more traditional class. So we have the work habits. These are what we call global work habits. So these come from the school. You don't even have to put those in. And we have different assignments here, but none of these assignments are aligned to any standards. They're just, we're just giving assignment scores. But to show something, let's see here, we'll go to our English class here, which is a mix of both. And so here we can see that we have some academic standards that we've written. We have assignments here on the right. And these assignments here may be aligned to one or more standards. So as I click on these assignments, you can see the standards that they're aligned to. And you can see that list kind of filtering there. So I can see what it is that I'm giving feedback to the students on based on the standards that it's aligned to. And so real quick, I'll just take you through the process of creating a new assignment here. I can choose which class I want to add this. So if I'm teaching multiple sections of the same class, I can do that very easily. I can give my assignment a title. Not particularly creative, so we'll just call this demo assignment. Units are kind of like categories in Google Classroom. They can just organize them. or I guess topics actually in classroom. And then we have assignment categories here. So homework, quiz, tests. There's different, if you're, giving final grades here, you can choose, what percentage of your class grade is tests and homework and things like that. We have a due date. And then here I can then choose to give, let's say I'm going to give feedback on 2 of these standards for the students, and then one of the work habits as well. So I have to give it a number of bullets here. And so now I've saved my demo assignment. You can see the standards that it has aligned to it. And then we can click grade on the assignment. And it's going to take us to this spreadsheet here that's starting to look a little bit more like a grade book. So depending on the mode you're using, in our more traditional modes, we would have just the 3 standards that I aligned it to. But in hybrid, what we have here is this new assignment score. And so this is a percentage-based score here. So I can say, the student got a 90, maybe they got 100. I can say, well, I know that it's I gave it 10 points. So I can actually say the student got a 9, and I can say that's out of 10, and JumpRope will calculate that for me. And so if you want, that's the mode of grading that you're doing, then you can do that. Or if you want to just give feedback to the students on the standards, here we have the standards, and this particular scale on the school is a 4-point scale. And so you can see there scores going in. And one of the things about JumpRope, just as I'm entering its scores, is that it's very customizable. So the scales that you're using, whether it's, it does not have to be a 4-point scale. So a lot of our schools use letters instead of the numbers to represent the different levels that students are at. And a lot of the other pieces of functionality here can be customized to specifically match your school's implementation. And that's really important to us. And in the setup process, we do a lot of work to really customize the software to really be specific to your school's implementation and your beliefs and philosophies around standards-based grading. We really, we believe in giving really good feedback to students, but we don't believe there's any one right way of doing that. So it's really important to make sure that JumpRope is set up in such a way that it really represents your school's beliefs around grading and giving feedback to students. And there's a ton of other features and things I won't go into detail on, and you can always contact us and sign up for a full demo if you want to for your staff. And then we also have a free version of the application that you can sign up for and use for free in your classroom. JumpRope is always free for individual teachers to use. And we know that not every school is totally ready, and sometimes teachers want to do this on their own. And so we offer this for free for teachers to use in their own classroom. And so then the real benefit of standards-based grading is not necessarily the entering in the scores, but it's really about having that, having that data for yourself as a teacher, and being able to use that data to inform your instruction. And so in JumpRope, there's a number of reports that you can use. This in our hybrid class, you'll see kind of a summary of the assignment scores and how the students are doing overall on assignment scores. But then underneath that, here we have academics, their performance on academic standards, and then on their work habits as well. And there's a couple different views here when it comes to reporting. This view here is by the standard. So we have, this is the overall class performance on a standard. And then we can click down into that. We can see how each individual student is performing on that standard in the class. So this is really helpful if you want to identify areas to target instruction and maybe doing different groups with your students. This is a great report. And in similar fashion, the table report here is can be really helpful for that and digging into kind of figuring out, okay, where are my students? And you can click into any of these to get a chart here of how the student's been performing over time. And so really the goal is to make this data as useful as possible for both you and your students. All right, and then with that, I think we'll open it up to questions. And I mean, there's so much more to show you. We have, like I said, attendance and comments, like anecdotals. We have a parent and student. We have a family portal where families can log in. But why don't we switch to Q&A? So we'll do that. And
So Justin, I've been reading some of the questions coming in, and some folks are interested as to how this communicates with STARS. You may want to say a couple words about that.
Yeah, so STARS can have, so the students' classes and they're just like some of the basic contact information, biographical information can be uploaded from STARS into JumpRope. And that's accessible through the application. So there's, your classes will be in here when you log in. Your administrator can connect your JumpRope account to the data that comes in from STARS. And then also students have a profile and you can see contact information and those kind of things from STARS.
Justin, is it possible to show the student view?
Yeah.
Some folks have expressed interest in seeing what it looks like from the student side.
Oh, so the actual portal?
Yeah.
Yeah, so on the school side, there's a couple places for the school to have an introduction for their grading scale and their introduction on the portal. There's a section here for current grades, so students can see what their current grades are. And then in addition to, just because since transitioning to standards can be difficult in that, standards is not like standards. It can be a little difficult to read those reports sometimes. And so we also have an assignment summary. And so this would show each assignment kind of in order. And you can click into each assignment and then show the scores that the student received on their standards on a particular assignment. And so that's kind of another view. And then there's upcoming work, missing work. We didn't talk about missing work, but you can designate special codes. And so characters usually like an M for missing. And those assignments that have been marked missing, which the student probably doesn't have any, will be on here. Then they can also see their schedule and attendance.
Justin, we've had a few questions about Google Classroom.
Yeah, so JumpRope can integrate, doesn't really, I wouldn't say integrate necessarily, probably isn't the correct word, but we can import scores from Google Classroom. So in my assignments here, I can, it's not enabled for this demo account, but in addition to importing scores from CSV, you can, if it's enabled for your school, you can import scores from Google Classroom, and it basically just, it does it through the API. It pops up, gives you a list of the assignments from Classroom, and then can import those scores into one of the standards if you have multiple columns, you can choose which column it gets imported into. I will note there's one really disappointing limitation with Google Classroom integration, and that's that Google has not yet released their API for their standards piece. So if you are already using Google Classroom with standards, they don't give us access to that information yet. And as soon as they do, we will upgrade our integration to work with that.
Let's see, what other questions? I think we've covered most of the questions, some of which I think it'll be easy for me to send answers to you individually. Can you show folks again, if we have time, how you would write in a standard if you were using this for
Oh, yeah.
standards-based grading?
Creating a standard, sure. So at the top right here, we have create, and there's a couple of different methods. You can create your own individual learning target. You can also create a target from a bank. So as other teachers at your school are creating standards, or as you, let's say in your second year of using JumpRope, you can access standards from both other teachers and standards that you've used last year. But in the beginning, you're just going to be creating a standard on your own. And there's space for a title. Standard. And then there's types of standards. So you can choose from this site, demo site's kind of locked down because it has school-wide work habits set up. So really the only standard type you can choose is academic. But the types of standards that you can choose from are customizable for each implementation that we do. And then the calculation method that you use. So how do we evaluate the body of evidence from the student for this particular standard? There's a number of different calculation methods that we offer. We can also do custom calculation methods if there's a particular method that you want to do that's not available by default. We can customize those, and you can choose which method you want. There's also a lot more options on the standards. And so, for example, we have mastery levels. This is creating your rubric here. So like I said, this is a 1 to 4 scale school. So here we have the 4 levels, and this is where using this can get really powerful, right? This is where you can set what the learning progression is for this standard, and you can use this to give really detailed feedback to the students in terms of where they're at.
I'm just scanning the questions again. There's been a couple of questions, if we have time, Justin, around in the hybrid version, how you would set up your category weights.
Yeah, so I can click the little indicator up there that I'm in the hybrid class, and then this here is where I can set my weights. See, our demo count is a bit of a mess, and it does not, we're using that. Doesn't have to actually equal up to 100%. Obviously, we give you a little guide here so that you can make it that way. But this is where you can set up your category weights, and those can be set up by the schools. So sometimes we have schools who have a consistent implementation. Maybe they have like a major or minor assignment breakout between the two, or have kind of a guide. Hey, here's our template, but then you can go customize it. So lots of different options there as well.
Justin, I think we are about out of time. And I want to make sure to let people know I'll do my best to get answers to you that we didn't cover already. But since we are supposed to be wrapped up by 8:45, I think this would be a great time to thank you for joining us. And feel free to visit us in the virtual booth if you have additional questions or we don't get them to you.
Yes, thank you, everybody. Really appreciate your time, and this concludes our presentation. Thanks.